Okay.
That looks like that worked.
Still cannot make Rob a panelist.
Up there, up there.
Can we connect Rob with just audio?
Okay, thanks, Kyle.
Fix.
Yep. All right.
Okay, bye.
Spell him out of that one. He should show up. Yep, he's in.
He's
Rob?
there. We just,
Victory. All right, got everybody? We're gonna turn your cameras on now. Yep.
so Rob, can you turn your camera on?
Can you unmute Rob? Rob, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah. I've never done it with the iPad before. I've always done it with my laptop. So you're going to have to direct me through the process of getting the camera to work, I guess. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work the way it used to.
I think we're gonna have to go with the the 6 that we've got, and if you can get the camera working, great. But we're already at 5:26, so we're gonna go for it, and can hear you, we just can't see you. I know that Melissa prefers everybody be seen, but we've got a quorum with the 6, so.
And
Mr.
Shane, your counsel's on the phone, but I'm sure she would likely, or I'm confident she would agree with me that the statute says here for purposes of quorum. Obviously, C is better, but for purposes of counting your quorum, Carolyn.
There he is.
Oh, there we go. All you have to do is speak it, and it becomes the truth.
You will
Peterson
not be
there?
denied.
I will call the meeting to order. Carolyn, do you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Here.
Carter,
Here.
Hunt,
Here.
Keller,
Here.
Lunds.
I think I'm here.
Thank you. Peterson
I was here twice for a little bit, but I'm here once now.
and Erickson.
Here.
7-0 here.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our meeting, and so I would entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved. Bussey?
Second.
We have a motion made by Bussey, seconded by Hunt. Any further discussion? Not, Carolyn, do you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Keller,
Absent.
Lunds,
Aye.
and Peterson.
Aye.
6-0 with 1 abstain.
Okay, the next item on the agenda then is the appointment of the general counsel. Shane, I guess that requires no action because we have an RFP going out. So do we need to take any further action on that, or do you want to talk to that issue? We have the same thing, I guess, with the bond counsel.
Mr. President, members, so with bond counsel and the general counsel, we are going out with an RFP in the first quarter of this year to hire both of those firms. So we've executed 3-month contracts with Kennedy and Graven to continue their services through that time period when we will be going out for RFP. So it's informational, no action is required on that.
Okay, so then we can move on to item 2.2, the officers, and there's on page 7, there's a listing of the current incumbents. So I would open it for nominations as to what people want to do.
Can we move the slate as a whole to be retained rather than going through? I'm just trying to be efficient.
Mr. President and Commissioners, you could certainly do that.
Well,
Okay.
I just did then.
Second by Peterson.
Okay, Commissioner Keller has moved the slate, Mr. Peterson has seconded. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Not, Carolyn, do you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Lunds,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, and we'll continue on for another year, I guess, all of us, so, at any rate. The next item on the agenda then is the newspaper, the Sun Current is our current newspaper, that's on page 8 of your package. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the Sun Current as our newspaper.
So moved.
Okay, I'll move.
Commissioner Carter moved, Commissioner Keller seconded, does that work?
You bet.
All right. Any further discussion? Carolyn, you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Lunds,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye.
7-0.
The next item then on the agenda is the bond council, and that's the same thing as we had before, that we have an RFP, so I don't think that takes any action. We then have the electronic funds transfer, that's on page 10. Well, Shane or anybody wants to talk to that, or Lori, but if not, I would entertain a motion for the electronic funds transfers as indicated in your package.
So moved.
Second by Peterson.
A motion made by Hunt, seconded by Peterson. Any further discussion? If not, Carolyn, you want to call a roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt.
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Lunds, Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you.
The next item then is the external auditor. It's on page 11 of your package. It's the firm MMKR. I don't know if Lori wants to comment on that, but the city has already approved it, and we're a subsidiary of the city, but we still need to, I guess, approve the selection of the auditor. So I would entertain a motion for the external auditor.
Moved by Peterson.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner Hunt. Any further discussion? If not, Carolyn.
President,
Yes, Lori.
just letting you, the commission know that this is year 5 of their contract. So finance will be, again, writing an RFP this summer for our 2022 audit that will occur next spring. But this is the last year of their contract for 2021 year-end audit in 2022.
Well, that's great. We appreciate the update. It's really important that we periodically do the RFPs, and it's just good business practice. So thank you.
Guess year 2.
Uh,
I would guess year 2.
Yeah, I know, right?
So we have had a motion made and seconded. Carolyn, you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Lunds, Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye.
7-0.
Next item is item 2.7, municipal advisor, which is Baker Tilly, and it says in the write-up that we had done an RFP several years ago, and so there's still, I think, 2 years to go. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of Baker Tilly as our municipal advisor.
Moved by Peterson.
Commissioner Peterson moves. Do we have a second?
Hunt.
Second by Commissioner Luntz. Lori, did you make any comment?
For this contract, it was only a 3-year contract through 2022. So again, this would be another item that we would have an RFP going out in 2022 or 2023 and beyond.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any further discussion? If not, Carol, you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Lunds,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you.
And then item 2.8, the official depositories, and I don't know, Lori, if you want to talk to that, and I know typically, because US Bank is involved, Cynthia Hunt has recused herself on this, but so it's also, I think, a little different in that we have a whole list of other local banks that the city, or the, I guess, the Port Authority would put up to $245,000 to be under the insurance limit, federal deposit insurance. So Laura, do you want to comment on that at all, or?
Mr. President and Commissioners, currently our RFP with US Bank goes for several more years. So we would not be selecting any major banks changes for a couple more years.
Okay, well, I guess that being the case, then I would entertain a motion for the approval of the official depositories as listed on pages 15 and 16 of your package.
Moved by Peterson.
Motion
Second.
motion made by Commissioner Peterson, seconded by Commissioner Bussey. Any further discussion? If not, Carolyn, you want to call the roll?
Bussey,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Hunt,
Recusing myself again this year.
thank you. Keller,
Aye.
Lunds,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
and Erickson.
Aye.
6-0 with one abstaining.
Okay, so I guess Shane, we're up to you to discuss your work plan.
You want to do
Stand by for just a second while I can share a presentation here. All right. Right. Okay, we've already gone through election of officers and the regular business. Can people hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So we've got the 2021 annual report and work plan. It should look pretty familiar format wise and also project wise to previous years, but you'll see later on in the document here, one of the things that we want to work on in 2022 is a number of organizational items, and that's one of those is to just update the format of the report and work plan. But with that noted, we will walk through this like we've done in years past. So the pandemic has certainly impacted a lot of the Port Authority's work in 2021. Certainly was a wrench in everybody's lives and everything in 2020, but that continues. For 22, we continue to be part of a group internally that's kind of like an economist group that looks at impacts from the pandemic to the city's budgets, most notably the lodging, liquor, and admissions taxes that affect the property tax levy. And it's a group, we just had actually the meeting this morning. We meet monthly now and work with finance and Kari to try to predict where this pandemic is going, because that lodging tax in particular affects not only the South Loop Development Fund, but the city general fund, and then how much in a way subsidizes the city general fund levy. SIC was a big project and has been for a couple of years, but 2021 was a big year for SIC. We closed on the property. It was as lots of closings are, this was a complicated closing in the middle of the summer. We got it done. We broke ground. It's coming out of the ground. I think it's really changed the physical landscape on South Loop. If you haven't been by there recently, I think, for a kind of light manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing project, it's as attractive as those projects go, I think. We're starting to talk to them about phase 2. A lot of this is in their court from a business standpoint, if they're able to move forward with phase 2, but we're hearing that's a possibility, and we'll be working with them hopefully to move that forward, get phase 2 started potentially in 2023. In 2022, we'd be doing all those development agreements. And while the property closing, and so that paradigm has been set, phase 2 is as another level of complexity in it, because we would be involved in building the parking ramp that would sit next to the project. Also for 2022, we'd be administering the Minnesota Investment Fund loan for phase 1. And then Park and Fly and American Square, those projects saw approval in 2020/21, and have been impacted by commodity prices. And so with a little luck and some budget adjustments, those projects will move forward soon, but those are going to be ongoing. And so remember, the Auditor is the market rate project, and the Quinn is the affordable project that kind of goes along with the Auditor. So just going back through a couple of those things. So these are the monthly totals for lodging tax, or lodging sales, which then equate to lodging taxes. And these are monthly totals, so this is public information that you can glean and back calculate. We do have some more detailed information that is confidential, but we put this in a monthly format for public presentations. But you can see the 2021 line, the green line, starting to approach the 2019 line at the end of the year. Of course, with Omicron and things like that happening, we're always just super curious to get the data and see how that comes in. But the lines are starting to converge, and hopefully Omicron will be, a couple of month impact and not longer than that, but only time will tell.
Shane?
Yes.
Do me a favor, if you would, with the next graph, to those of us who have a color blindness issue, the years 2020 and 2021 look exactly the same color. So if you could do something that was a little more stark, like black or yellow or something, it would be helpful to me.
Mr. President, Mr. Keller, thanks for that. Just for ease, the 2019 is on the top, 2021's in the middle, and 2020's in the bottom. You could probably figure that out, but to make that easier, next time I will do dashes or dots or something. So
Don't want any ADA claims.
Definitely not. Picture of the SICK project, the Rosa project. You've seen these before, and then the location of the Auditor project, which is south of the Rosa project. Rosa would be just to the north here. Auditor project there. And I'm going through this tonight just for ease of flow of the meeting, but Becky and Jason are here to answer any questions, and of course Becky is working on some projects. Jason's the lead on other projects. I'm the lead on some projects. We all work together on many of these, but I just want to give credit to the whole team here that works on all of these, and we're here to answer any questions. And just because I'm going through it doesn't mean that it's not somebody else's baby, if you will. So.
Well, Shane, we appreciate your comment, and we fully realize that you've got a tremendous team that we've witnessed has done tremendous work in the last couple of years with all the things, and this, your work plan only more fully identifies that, but that is very good to bring up. And we're also excited, I think it's now official that you're actually going to be having the staff edition that we've been hoping for a number of years. So.
Yes, Mr. President, Commissioner, thanks for that. And yes, we are in early conversations with HR and others about how that position will fit into the organization, and moving on that as soon as possible here in 2022. So the water park obviously was a big project, has been for a number of years. That project is really ramping up. In fact, especially lately after the holiday break, kind of a slowdown on some projects, but we're starting to get agreements and really move that forward. So that's moving into the agreement phase now as we look to kind of move on the term sheet that the Council in Port directed us to move forward with previously in 2021. And then the World's Fair, in particular, the mayor and the city manager are engaged in this heavily. And really in the last couple of months, the project has got a lot of momentum that it really needed. And I think it's just it's really nice to see the level of people engaging in the project, and the private industry, you know, frankly, donating money to the project, not to us, obviously, but to the organizing committee and things like that. So their fundraising activities and the engagement with the federal government and other entities is just really starting to gain momentum. And so 2022 is going to be a very big year for the project. It'll really make or break it. There's a lot of work to do, but the momentum is headed in the right direction, and it's really, really nice to see. And you know, the council and port have been very supportive of that project. I think even more so now than in 2017. And I think it has a real chance.
Commissioner Lunch, you had your.
Yeah, just a quick question. As I recall, the vote with was it IEB, whatever, in Paris is in November. Are we gonna have staff there to present in person, I presume, again?
Thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners, Commissioner Lunds. So the vote is likely to happen in June of 2023, as it sits today. Previously, we were thinking it would be November of 2022, but due to BIE rules and COVID, it's now likely to be in June of 2023. In fact, just yesterday, I think it's official that Phuket, Thailand is going to be a competitor competing for that time slot for an expo. They're actually proposing for 2028, but it's the same time period that competes with the Minnesota USA Expo.
Shane, I want to just circle back to the water park and those things. I just want to indicate to all the Port Authority members that I've been impressed in the last month or so with really the information flow that has been coming through, which is much enhanced from what they've done before. And Kurt Hagan and others, I think, have made a real effort to make sure that we, Shane in particular, knows about anything as soon as it happens. So from my standpoint, they're following through and indicated that they heard us in terms of our previous concerns about not getting information on a timely basis, et cetera.
I agree, Mr. President. Thanks for those comments. Legislation. So the Port Authority, you know, we act as the liaison, kind of the, it's almost like the data center, the switchgear for legislation and the legislative policies that the city council approves. In fact, we've got the legislative breakfast, of course, will be virtual. I guess everybody can eat their breakfast at their laptop this year, just like last year. But legislative breakfast is next Tuesday, a week from today, and then the council will consider the legislative platform on January 24 at their regular meeting. But the Port Authority, myself, act as you know, the coordinator for those legislative activities and connecting you know, the experts on a particular project with what we need to do in order to get those things passed. And I think, just again, it's more of a comment for the city council than it is for the Port Authority, but the return on investment, both from lobbying costs to time spent, is quite high for that work. The past 10 years, I think, have been just very good for Bloomington on that front, and all that time that we spend on that, which you know, comes at a time of year when it's really busy on a lot of fronts as projects are starting to, you know, trying to get in the ground and negotiating agreements is the same time that the legislature is in session. But again, it's just super important work and very fruitful. So do that. And then this year, we started a program, the South Loop Business Group Outreach. So we're going to do we have been doing, and we will continue to do quarterly meetings with South Loop businesses. It started as it relates to security concerns in South Loop that were somewhat exacerbated by COVID and homelessness, but it's really morphed into, and we kind of knew this and wanted to do this early on, you know, a way to talk to, in particular, South Loop businesses, to hear what's concerning to them, and provide other updates on economic development projects they're interested in what's going on in South Loop for obvious reasons. So we will continue
Shane,
that.
is that trouble in any particular part, or is it sort of generally distributed around the South Loop?
Mr. President, Commissioners, Commissioner Keller, are you asking about the crime aspect of it or just
Yes.
the outreach? Okay. So I'd say the increase in crime and police calls and things like that, I think it was evenly distributed, not only within South Loop, but outside of South Loop as well. In talking to the police department, you know, all along 494 and other areas. I mean, I think the crime situation has evolved. Now we're hearing a lot about, you know, carjackings and property crime and things like that. I know you and I live on the same street and have experienced some of that firsthand.
Yes.
And but earlier on in the pandemic, there was a lot of you know, people in spaces that weren't typically there, and so I was getting calls from businesses that had employees that were being approached and accosted in, you know, elevator cores, hotel owners that had incidences in their lobbies that they didn't have before the pandemic, and lots of things like that. So it was unusual for sure, and some of that seems to have gone down, but obviously we're hearing about all these other things in the news that that relate to, you know, more vehicles than anything. So,
Well, let me know if you find my catalytic converter. It's a real thing.
it's a real thing. On Halloween, I was walking by your house, Commissioner Keller, and something was happening in the cul-de-sac out there that I still don't know exactly what it was, but maybe you
Well,
saw that. But
there are a lot of people parking there who have questionable motivations.
enough said, probably.
Yeah.
You and I can talk about that offline.
We can.
So anyway, the outreach group is a real positive thing, and you know, now that we've got that kind of up and running, we can use it as an information, both distribution and gathering method for lots of different things. And just lay of the land, you know, Marriott, Ramada, Met Center, Met Stadium, adjoining lands, SS Farm. If we need to, we can come back to this diagram if people have questions, but I've said it a couple of times. This is the first time I think that there's activity, development or otherwise, I think on every parcel, especially every open parcel in South Loop. And that's obviously the goal. You know, that's what the Port Authority is really there to do, is to, I look at my job, and again, we'll get to this, you know, more organizational stuff at the end of the work plan. You know, the goal of the Port Authority and the goal of my job is to get South Loop developed, and that's happening very rapidly right now, which is great, even, you know, in the midst of the pandemic. Again, where the water park is and the associated parking ramp, very likely a hotel would come along with it. And then just on the expo, you know, again, the real goal from my perspective on the expo is to get a big chunk of South Loop developed in one fell swoop. Of course, the expo event is super important, but building the buildings so that they can be used afterwards in a meaningful way is really important. This is the Kazakhstan Expo. I know that Kazakhstan's in the news for all the wrong reasons right now, but their development model is still something that was important to see. And then the Spruce Shadows Farm, Port Authority and Council staff, we talked about it as a potential site for Expo. But we have engaged with the Native American community. They are engaging back with us. In fact, we received a letter from them recently saying that they have concerns about the city, you know, city / you know, Minnesota placing an Expo on the Spruce Shadows Farm site. So we are engaging with that community, engaging with the landowner, engaging with the Office of the State Archaeologist and others to really understand what people's concerns are and if there is a possibility there. We don't know that today. It's an ongoing discussion. Where we are with the Expo siting right now is, you know, the adjoining lands east of the Mall of America is the core site. And if there are lands that can be added to that core site, after discussions with all of the various stakeholders, including, of course, the Native American community, then so be it. But that's a big question mark as it sits here today, and what could happen on the Spruce Shadows farm. And a lot of that has to do with statute and legality and things like that. Tied into that is the Long Meadow Circle property. There is a development potential there that we're monitoring. We are under an NDA on that project, but that's an active project. Small strategic planning for downturns. This work started, well, it's been going on for a long time, but it started in earnest back in 2015 and 16 after the Al-Shabaab video came out, and it caused traffic to go down at the Mall of America. But it was really important to do that work before the pandemic, and it was a lot of good information that we had kind of in the bank when the pandemic hit to try to manage how the downturn was impacting the mall and how they were managing their finances, and asking the city for things, and that's again information we had in the bank to help us mitigate and deal with that challenge. The Ramada Thunderbird site, there's a group there. Again, we're under an NDA, so we can't talk publicly about what's happening there, but there's an active development there as well. And then Bloomington Central Station. So the Fenley is leasing up. They're, I think, 70 to 80% leased up right now, and the velocity is still good. And the fourth phase residential with grocery in 2021, that was approved with a approved term sheet. We're just shifting into the gear now of doing those development agreements. And the first quarter here, we're going to be processing all those, and currently scheduled to bring those to the Port Authority in early March. But
So Shane, the lease up of the Fenley is really good news then for the other projects that are kind of on hold right now due to some financing and stuff, because if they continue to feel that they can lease their projects up fairly quickly, that's obviously good news.
yep, Mr. President, Commissioners, absolutely. They, it was an interesting time to open a residential project right at the beginning of COVID, of course, and I guess they started leasing up kind of a couple months into COVID, but even in February and March of 2021, their leasing velocity started to pick up. And if you remember where we were at that time, it was a little surprising in some ways to see that, because that was a really tough time. COVID in December, the restaurants were closed, but I kind of think what happened is people were tired of living who they were living with, perhaps, and needed more space of their own. And the family was positioned to, we were getting 20, 25 leases signed a month at that point, and 400 unit project, that slowed down for sure, as it always does near the end. But it's been, as good as you could expect with the conditions that we have today, which are, pretty unprecedented. So, but yes, they're getting very close on the developer side to be able to move forward with the fourth phase of residential there that doesn't have a name yet. But commodity prices are a real impact. They're trying to manage that and not come back to the city and port for an additional ask. And but those cost increases are not incidental. They're real and they're big. So. All right, and then the Spruce Shadows Farm, this is just a location map of the upland area versus the farmland. And I think everybody knows where the site is, but just a reminder. And then the Long Meadow Circle site, and the two parcels on the south end of this map, the bottom of this map here, are part of the Spruce Shadows Farm as well. And Ramada site, again, active project there. Adjacent to that is what we call the Mall of America Pork Chop. And whether that gets combined with the development or not is still TBD. Bentley, And then the fourth phase of residential with the grocery there. All right, and then, let's see, I just can't see my thing here. BCS, I mean, so the office market is probably, just gonna be stagnant for a long time, but there are still some conversations about office that come and go from time to time, but mostly it's been going and not coming into focus lately, so, but we'll continue to monitor that. The Park and Go development, which is the one that's west of 34th Avenue. Again, they have a requirement from the city to convert that into development in phases. And we continue to talk to them, and they continue to talk to us about subsidy. And they're going to be going through the Planning Commission very soon, maybe even this Thursday, for a request to extend their timelines. But first off, that's a decision for the Planning Commission and City Council. The Center for, was there a question? No, okay. The Center for Inspiration is call it the Space Shuttle Project. That project's on pause due to COVID. I do reach out to Casey Herzberg occasionally just to see if that's still an option. So, should we keep it on the work plan, if you will? And she says, yes, the project is just kind of in a state of stagnation right now due to the state of things. Old Cedar Avenue Bridge, the grand opening of that project was, I think, went very well. I think the mayor did a great job speaking at the event. We had Senator Klobuchar there. It's just a really nice project to see finally get done, and just, I think, applause all around for everybody that worked on that one. And the Riverview Corridor, the streetcar project, well, theoretically streetcar project, we're involved in quite a few committees. I mean, you get these updates to the Council and Port Authority, but there are a lot of committees and subcommittees on that project. But the mayor and I, and then some folks from Public Works are involved in covering those. And that project has a long way to go, but that's how they ultimately get done. Fire Station 3, monitored the close-up of that project, and then we'll be shifting into talking about creative placemaking options for that site. The Carlton TIF fund, again, is a city fund, but since it's in the South Loop District, the port helps finance manage that. And most of that was dedicated to the SIC project. We still have a little bit to spend, and then we'll close that call it old TIF fund out on this next phase. The State Trail, we support funding for that. So we just kind of keep an eye on that. There wasn't a lot of activity in 2021 on that. But I mean, even last night there was discussion at the City Council about, doing a natural resource project with some of the local option sales tax money that the city could be the beneficiary of, and how that fits in. We'll be working on that as well. And then strategic parcels, just monitoring kind of all those parcels in South Loop for opportunities, to potentially buy them, and then of course affect what gets built on them, much in the same way that the Port Authority bought the Ramada Thunderbird site. And so Riverview project, we've seen updates on that recently. And then just economic development generally. So, we maintain relationships with greater MSP, other municipalities, DEED, and other organizations. We field calls from developers on a regular basis, business owners, etc. We have the fairly successful Open and Business program with MCCD. And of course, we did the business survey, which the Council and Port heard in 2021 with, I have to say, I was a little bit surprised personally with just the positive business climate that businesses were experiencing in Bloomington. That was, I'm not saying it's a total surprise because we don't hear a lot of complaining, but it was just surprising to me at how positive that survey turned out. I think it was surprising to the surveyor. in addition to everybody else. And then new business resource page. And, you know, there'll be a lot more work on that this year. Some other departments from community development are engaging on that, from our new CD director, Carla, and then Barb Wolf, who is not part of the port, but is working on some of these projects. And, you know, with the Fire Station 3 small business incubator project, I think is really going to see a lot of progress in 2022. And that'll be a really cool project to see get underway. We engage on the city strategic planning. We will do more work on diversity, equity, inclusion with the port this year. We engage on infrastructure planning with the city groups. Manage the South Loop Development Fund. Again, that's a city fund technically, but because it's statutorily aimed at South Loop geographically, the port has traditionally been the budgeter for that. Normandale Lake District. Again, the port can operate anywhere in the city while its focus has generally been South Loop. You know, it's Cushman and Wakefield that's the manager of the majority of that space out there. And so we worked with them to try to make the office area out there more successful, and we continue to work with them. In fact, just got a call from the BOMA director today for a meeting, so I'll be meeting with her next week. And
Shane, we
yes.
need to, on the foreign trade zone, we need to thank Commissioner Keller for his many years of service. And then, of course, former Mayor Winstead served, and now Mayor Bussey is serving on that. So that has been something that has been, I think that was one of the ways in which we found out about the SIP project, right?
Mr. President, Commissioners, absolutely. So the foreign trade zone, our involvement there, the fruit of that really is the SIC project. Without you know, our knowing about SIC in general, they would be somewhere else, either in Houston or in another part of the Twin Cities. And so the foreign trade zone has really been just really on the upswing again in the past couple of years, in large part due to the foreign trade zone's collaboration with DEED as administrator. And in fact, unfortunately, the person that's doing that work just got a different job, and they'll be moving on. But I'm sure DEED will assign a new person to that and keep that in their quiver. I know they're very supportive of the foreign trade zone. But noted, Commissioner Keller spent a lot of time on the foreign trade zone, and I think everybody's appreciative of his service. And now currently the mayor and I are on that board. And actually in February is when we typically do that appointment. We'll have that on the agenda again for reappointments to the foreign trade zone.
I appreciate the comments, but I have to note that foreign trade zones coincidentally seem to get a lot more success the minute I left.
Tim, you had to lay the groundwork.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. It was the DEED involvement. I agree with Shane. That did change things a lot. We had a person who was a full-time job practically doing that. So, and he was quite good. So anyway, that's enough from me.
I have a typo in here. I left Jason's name in here, but the Excel Energy Certified Site Program. So Excel has this website and program that says you know, around the country that these sites are kind of served with power, they're kind of ready to go, and we worked with them to make sure that those South Loop sites are in there. And then creative placemaking, a big year with creative placemaking this year, with events, but in particular the physical installations, of course, you know, mostly because of COVID, but you know, the Old Cedar Avenue Bridge event was in part a creative placemaking event with Allie working on those projects. The mural that's on the Excel substation, I think, is quite striking, frankly. And then just recently, on the windiest day of the year, the Goldfinch got installed, and we were anxiously awaiting the wind to be over so that we knew that the bird wasn't gonna end up on the ground on its first day, but due to logistics and trucks and deliveries and things like that, it needed to be installed that day. So in any case, it worked out, and if you haven't driven by there, it's really striking, and people are talking about it in Eden Prairie and other communities, and I think most of it's been positive. So it's a neat project, and we hope to
Commissioner
do
Luntz?
more.
Rob, did you want to?
Yeah, on creative placemaking, I just have a quick question. With Rachel Daling, the visual arts director at Artistry, having left after many years, has there been a new liaison? And does the city still have a contract with Artistry and assist in the creative placemaking efforts?
Mr. President, Commissioner Lunds. So let's see. Yes, the city does have a contract with Artistry for Artistry to provide services to creative placemaking. Allie, our creative placemaking director, probably the person that she works most with is Rachel, or Rachel's position. And what Commissioner Lunds is referencing is that Rachel is moving on. She's still with us for a little bit longer. And Allie's engaged with the folks over at Artistry to offer her services and to help, shape or form or have input in on who Rachel's replacement will be, whether it's internal or external. Of course, that's up to Artistry, but Rachel's been an asset, and it's too bad for us, good for her that she's moving on. So did I get all those questions, Commissioner Lawrence?
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, and in the event, I can only see 3 other people on my screen when Shane is presenting, so please, if somebody else wants to speak, just interrupt or do something else. We can let you in.
If I could just offer, Mr. President, if the goal of art is to stimulate thinking and maybe create conversation, I would say the Goldfinch, mission accomplished. Because I don't know if you follow it at all on social media, but my goodness, every time there's a picture posted, it has all kinds of conversation around it.
Looks great.
Which is good.
And Mr. Mayor, how would you characterize the comments generally that you're seeing in there?
I would say generally positive. There's some folks who are, the typical naysayers who don't quite understand art, are not happy with it. But I think for the most part, people are thrilled with it. It is absolutely striking. It really is.
Better than that spoon with the cherry in it in Minneapolis.
What was the significance of the Goldfinch?
Mr. President, Commissioners, Commissioner Hunt. So the artist had a slate of birds that he was kind of willing to have a sculpture with his name on it. He's a very well-known and well-respected artist, national artist. I'm not sure if international, but definitely national. He has an installation in the, I think is it Atlanta Airport, for example. It's a big aviator glasses, clouds, and I mean, so he does these iconic kind of kitschy installations, if you will. And so he had a slate of birds that that he wanted to do, and then Allie did a poll with social media outreach, and ultimately the community decided what kind of bird that it would be. They're all birds that are native to this area.
Okay.
A lot of heated discussion between whether it should have been the goldfinch or the indigo bunting, which,
Okay.
so, yeah.
I voted for the Goldfinch.
I voted for the wild turkey.
But they're really annoying.
Better than those mean blue jays. Anyway,
No kidding.
anyway, it is it's good press. Anyway, help putting South Loop on the map. And then again, this South Loop branding, there's been discussion at the port to rename 34th and/or 34th Avenue to South Loop. We still have that on the docket. honestly, we're just, you know, working on all the development projects, and we will get to the branding piece, because I think the boards have voted that it's a good idea, and we will get to that. The financial review and audit, ongoing work there. And then organizational, I mean, we've heard loud and clear that we need to update the Port Authority's mission and vision. The city council, and through their engagement activities right now, are going out with strategic planning, and that work is ongoing. So 2022, I just gotta make sure I'm in the right year, is a good year to, in the second half of the year, update that work and the work plan. There's other organizational work that that needs to get done as well. The data management policy, Port Authority bylaws, the South Loop District Plan is really going to happen in mostly 2023, but there'll be some pre-work that will happen to that in 2022. And then early in the year, the org chart, as we mentioned, with the additional position, what does the org chart look like? How does it interface with the HRA's work? The HRA has what the client is an assessment of the division that's happening right now through an outside consultant, and really evaluating what you know, what the HRA should be focused on. And the pandemic has really changed that. The pandemic has pushed the HRA focus to, you know, what's being talked about as the continuum of housing, all the way from, you know, the people that are unsheltered, all the way through home ownership. And so HRA's focus may or may not shift. That work is ongoing, and the Port Authority, you know, may get involved in some of the projects that are traditionally HRA projects. Again, I don't want to presume what the consultant will say, just kind of laying out the landscape of the potential opportunities. But we're not going to wait for that, because honestly, the port needs additional headcount. So we're going to look at the port's org chart, get another position, get another body in, and work on these other items throughout the year. But and then just one last thing that I have, and of course open for discussion. But you know, the Port Authority meeting schedule, traditionally we meet at, you know, the first Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. I know that doesn't happen a lot of times. Many times because either there are no items for the port to consider, or we're trying to schedule a concurrent meeting with the city council. And you know, it's an open topic as to whether, you know, we should, you know, have these concurrent meetings continue the way they are, or if the port should have their meetings on the first Tuesday, and then we should take those items to the city council separately. Again, this is open for the board to discuss, but I know it's frustrating because a lot of times we don't have the meeting on the first Tuesday, and then it's a scheduling exercise to have, you know, to have these concurrent meetings, which are challenging for 12 people, council members and Port Authority members, to find a night that works for staff and the 12 board members, and the meeting rooms and holidays and things like that. But the other side of the coin is that, you know, these concurrent meetings are valuable because the council gets to hear what the port has to say and vice versa. And so that's how we've, you know, been doing it for the last 10 or so years. But we could also shift to, you know, it's really what the HRA used to do back, honestly, when Regina was here 6-7 years ago. She would have her HRA meetings. They would do the meat of the business. And I don't want to say that the council was a rubber stamp on the HRA's work, but it was much more or less detail presented at the city council, where the HRA really did the meat of the work and negotiating term sheets and things like that.
So
So
Shane, do we need to change our constituent documents? We talked about this once before about how we're not, in fact, talked about nobody really knew. So we aren't, if we're not following the rules, do we have to change the formal rules?
Mr. President, Commissioners, Commissioner Keller, I definitely think we are definitely following the rules. It gets into the definition of statutory definition of quote unquote regular meeting and quote unquote special meeting. So we're totally legal on everything for sure. It's just more, what is the preference of the board? And we've got the mayor and Councilmember Carter here that could opine on that. But again, you know, we staff work for you guys, and however you guys want to handle it is okay. So unless you direct us differently, we'll kind of continue on, try to have meetings on the first Tuesday as appropriate. And honestly, if it works to have the council join us at those meetings, that's the best outcome, but oftentimes that doesn't work for one reason or another. But anyway, that's another thing to consider. If people want to do it differently, we're certainly open to that. But with that, you've heard me ramble on for quite a while, and I can stop talking and take discussion and questions.
Shane, or Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So I divide the meetings with the city council in kind of two categories. I think there are the meetings that seem to have been dominating recently, where we both kind of hear a report and make a decision based on that in kind of in parallel. And to be honest, I think those could be held serially, where the commission acts and then sends something to the city council to be acted on. Where I do think the joint meetings continue to have benefit is where the council and the Port Authority need to kind of develop some policy alignment around something, or kind of decide to initiate a particular process. And a good example is evaluating an opportunity like the Expo. I think that was a good, the initial conversation around that in terms of should we pursue this. I think it benefits from a free-flowing conversation between both the council and the port. Maybe once it gets going, and it's more evaluating proposals and kind of and the kind of the mechanics of making the project work, that it could run separately. But I think there are roles for both kind of meetings.
Mr. Keller?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that getting the aggregate of the decision makers together has given us in the past the opportunity for people to kind of share opinions and think through what they really want to do at the end of the day. And I know I have actually been influenced by council members in how I viewed things. So I do think there is some benefit to that. I totally agree with Commissioner Peterson, and we should keep that up as long as those meetings run. I note. I think sharing that kind of stuff is going to be really helpful, as I think it has been in the past.
Commissioner Luntz? You're muted, I think, Rob.
And please, Carolyn.
Okay. I also would like to see meetings with the council continue. I do believe the council is closer to the citizenry than we as citizen port board members are, and that feedback I think is very important. I mean, I don't get calls from anyone except people I happen to talk to in close neighborhood or church or other city activities I'm involved in. But I do think there's a value to that, and I value them. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Hunt.
I'd agree on that. I think there's some value in the interchange between the two groups and so forth. I don't know that it has to be every meeting, but when there's meaningful things to discuss, I think it has been good. So.
Well, one of the things that I always felt and I try to reinforce is that the Port Authority is a constituent part of the city government. I mean, we serve at really the pleasure of the city council. And so I think it's really, to some degree, the city council's role to define what they want the Port Authority to do. And, we've done different things over different periods of time, but I think particularly Commissioner Peterson, because he served on the city council for years, and obviously the mayor and Commissioner Carter, Councilmember Carter, have kind of a unique perspective on this. So from my standpoint, I mean, I think we've been dealing with a lot of difficult projects. We've gone through a very difficult time, obviously, with pandemic and dealing, quite frankly, with all the issues that we have with them all, because if concerns about financial viability and things, and we've, I think, come through this process stronger, in fact, and we've developed some things that have helped, and I've really been impressed really with the cohesion of the city on these issues. People have been able to talk about them. We've talked about difficult issues. So again, I think it's something that I would clearly defer to people that have served on both bodies and have that experience. But I think as you have been calling the meetings and doing things, Shane, I think it's worked out from my perspective fairly well. One of the things we do want to do, Shane, you started out talking about your staff, and I did a little bit in December when we met, but obviously we have a remarkable staff, I think, with Becky and Jason and you, and I know that there's been a lot of hours, and a lot of time put in, and a lot of dedication. And so all we have to do is look at the work plan. You look through it, and you could say in one way it's good bedtime reading because it's going to push you to sleep, but at the same point in time, it's a tremendous amount of things that are going on, and I think you're pointing out that there's active development really going on in all the areas in South Loop, and then the many other things that we get into. So, I mean, having been involved with this for obviously many years, it was always something that I was hopeful that we would get to the point where the development in South Loop and this area kind of becomes self-sustaining. And I think we're not at that point. We're pretty close to it, which is gratifying. And I think it represents a lot of long-term commitment and effort by the city and others to do this. So we're fortunate to have just really a great staff in place. And I think a good working relationship with the council and others. And so we can go forward, I think, with some confidence into the new year and I'm sure we'll have some more things that come along the pike before the expo is done. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of issues with that. And I'm sure before the water park is built and other development that there'll be more interesting discussions that we're going to have. But at the same point in time, I think we have to celebrate what staff has accomplished and everyone else. So I'll shut up at that point. Any other comments? Shane, do you have any additional things you want to put on?
No, Mr. President, Commissioners, again, just, know it's a group effort with all of us at the port. And then Ally, of course, on creative placemaking, and just thanks everybody on the port team for sure. I echo everything Bob said and put an exclamation point on it.
Well, if we have nothing else, I think we can adjourn. See you next month.
Mr. President and Commissioners, there is an action item on the annual report and work plan, just to.
Yep. I would entertain a motion that we want to accept the work plan or approve it, or whatever the language.
Yeah, Mr. President, it would be accept the 2021 annual report and approve the 2022 work plan.
I would move that.
Commissioner Luntz made the motion. We have seconded by Commissioner Hunt. Any further discussion? Carolyn, do you want to call the roll?
Hussey.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Hunt.
Aye.
Keller. Luntz.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
And Erickson.
Aye.
7-0. Thank you.
Okay, now Shane, are we done?
Mr. President, that's the end of the road.
All right, well, I will adjourn the meeting. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Aye.
Please don't say anything now until I stop the recording in the.